Me and Marley are out at Norton Priory Monastery today, so we thought we'd share a video with you and do a little bit of decoding on the way. So I've been coming here since I was born to this one. This is in Runcorn where I live. It's one of the most excavated monasteries in Europe, so it's definitely one of the more important bases for who would have been the Knights of Malta at the time. I think it was the true cross of Christ was supposedly brought here at one time as well. So it's been done up anyway. It's had some funding from the Lottery Fund, and since then it's had this extension put on, but the old ruins are still here, all the graveyards and everything else. And these ruins come from 1134, they date back to. And the original site in Runcorn dated to 1115. That was the same year that Bernard de Clairvaux founded Clairvaux Abbey. It was the same year that Florence gained independence upon the death of Empress Matilda. It was a big period of time for the Templars in particular. It was 3 years before the Templars officially became established in 1118 and 1119, again under Bernard de Clairvaux. So all the connections are there for the Templars, Knights of Malta, and all these different orders that would stem from them later in time. So yeah, let's go in and have a little look, see what we find. So this statue is one of the reasons that we're here today, one of the main reasons. It's St. Christopher holding the Christ child. So St. Christopher's story is carrying the Christ child across the river of Mersey. So of course Runcorn, Liverpool, is that river of Mersey, the Merseyside, etc. The dimensions of this are very special, very particular. The masons that have built it have done it perfectly. It tells a story of its own just in the dimensions. The left arm's missing of this. But this statue is a very old one. It survived the dissolution of the monasteries. So it was kept safe during that time. It's been very important to somebody. The dimensions for it are 3.37 metres by 0.4 metres, or 11.1 feet by 1.3 feet, or 133.2 inches by 15.6 inches. Now them dimensions all alone are very particular. But it's the last one on its own that gives the final answer on it, is the Christ child. So the final dimensions for it are 133.2 inches by 15.6 inches. That equals 148.8, which of course gives us Christos. In Greek isocracy gematria equaling 1480. But Norton Priory has got more clues to that as well. It holds that entire coding, which is why I'm here. It's actually short for what it is today. So the 111 dimension is the 11.1 feet. That is Christ in reverse, Francis Bacon, equals 111 gematria. Christos itself equals 111 in English ordinal. Usually you'll find the Christ child carrying the globe as well. Because it's all based on earth measure, of course. That's exactly what geometry is. It's the geometry of earth measure. So that's what these architects were doing. They're putting numbers of the cosmos into these buildings, into these structures, into these statues, these monuments that they were building. So the 111 is also the Trimurti. It's no different than the Trimurti. It's a Trinity number. And the Trimurti would be Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Shiva the destroyer, Brahma the creator, and Vishnu the preserver. So it's all the same story, but it's all based on energy. It's just allegories and symbolism. It's all based on energy really, which is what Jesus is. So we'll put some screenshots up on the screen so you can actually see what the geometry is and the values. But I'll talk a bit more about that as we get out to the church foundations anyway. So as I said, I've been coming here since I was little, so 37 years. It's changed over time, definitely, but it's still kept the main character of it. And this, of course, is a major feature, is this Christ statue. The dimensions I was just talking about in inches, the 133.2 inches, that's actually a measure from magic square of the moon. The value of that is 3,321. 15.6, for example, that's the 156th prime number is 911. So these are the numbers of the masons, it's what they were using at the time, it's what they've been using for thousands of years actually. I'll take a little look in the exhibition room. So Runcorn and the Priory, it's actually got a lot more history than Liverpool. Liverpool wasn't founded until 1207. Runcorn was founded long before that in 915 by Ethelfled. That's Alfred the Great's daughter. Ethelfled would become the Lady of Mercia in 911 upon the death of her husband. 911 also the year that Rollo became Duke of Normandy as well. So Runcorn's definitely one of the special places. It's home to the knights. Runcorn's new pyramid bridge, the Mersey Gateway, it's pyramid shaped. That's built by a knight architect. So at one time it was under Norman control, which is why you have the links with Bernard de Clairvaux in 1115, etc. They were Norsemen. Sinclairs themselves are Norsemen. And that's what they've got links in with this priory and with these families. Fitznigels, Fitzwilliams, they would all come over in the 1066 invasion with William. The geometry and some of the architecture is amazing. Oh, this is new, I've not seen this before. This is an exhibition they've brought in. I've seen these in many places, but not here before. This is where you can get to see the use of the stones, and how important the gemstones actually are to them. Wow. Very symbolic. Beautiful piece. So as I said earlier, Norton Priory is one of the most excavated monasteries in Europe. Maybe it is the most. So it's had some sort of importance over time. But it is set between Wales and Chester as well, so for that reason alone it's going to be one of the more important locations. These are some of the original arches from the masons that were here. The St. Christopher statue outside, that's got Christos coded in it. That's got a direct correlation with the original church foundations. So the masons have coded them the exact same, they've used the same dimensions for it. Some of the old coffin lids for the old knights. I think one of the things that people dismiss with Runcorn is the links back to the Vikings and the Norsemen. But it's in the clue of Runcorn, with the rune, which is hidden secret or witness, which has Woden in it, or Wodeness, it's the same thing. Of course, witness have the Witness Vikings rugby team as well. Or we have the Warrington Wolves, the Wolves of Odin, Jerry and Frecky. So the links are all there with it. And as we know, history is never exactly 100% true, because it's the victors of the war that get to write the history books. Pillars. I'm trying not to speak too loud because there's other people here. I'm trying not to annoy people, but I'm trying to show you as much as I can. I've just spoke about this hand of the O'Neills. So the O'Neill the O'Neills. That's the oldest royal surname in Britain today, 1,500 years old, and it's a Nile of the 9 hostages. It goes all the way back to the Irish, and the kings who would be crowned upon the hill of Tara, the King of Kings. So this is the skeleton of Geoffrey Dutton. The Duttons are quite a popular family in Runcorn. If you research their family name, they come up quite a lot here. As I said earlier on about the Holy Cross that was brought here, that was back in Knights of Malta, it would have been. But the Duttons, you'll find the family here, besides the Brooks, are probably one of the most important families that were associated with Norton Priory. As we get down further, then we come to the Brooks. So you get some clues with that name as well as the Brooks, or the old Brocks. So we'd have the Brocks back in Scotland. That's where the name actually does originate from. And of course you find all this exact same thing in Leonardo da Vinci's work then. But not many people know that JFK's family were from Wales originally. They would have related to Gerald de Windsor and Nesferk Rhys. So that's where JFK's family starts. That then flows through them and comes through to the Irish and the Scottish. But of course it's a direct relation to the Gherardini as well. Is the Geraldine name. Geraldine is the Gherardini of Mona Lisa's family. So it's part of the work Da Vinci was doing for the Gherardini family at that period of time. The family house and the mansion to the museum, the word mansion, that stems from Egypt, mansion. That means house of eternity, so the mansions you find in America and everything else, that's where it actually stems from, is ancient Egypt. Same with the word pylon. Pylons come from the Egyptians as well. That's cool. Let's see what else we can get. So this part of Norton Priory is one of the original features, it's one of the oldest parts. Of course the pillars and arches, always the archway with the keystone in the middle. But the keystone is the 6-9 of balance, that's what that really represents. It's the keystone and masonry brings balance to the structure. So this is all Norman architecture. It was the Norsemen that come over with William. That's always the key with the Norsemen, is to go back to the Normans. When William's come back over, he's come with the Norse army. That's exactly what they were. They were Vikings. So keep that in mind when you think who was on that throne in the period of time that they invaded. The architecture on these doorways is amazing. Reminds me of frequency waves, sound waves, sawtooth patterns, triangle patterns, square waves, etc. It's kind of what they put into the floors and that as well, with the geometry they was doing. And the tiling in Norton Priory is really cool as well. So this is one of the symbols that I was following for a long time. It was the diamond symbols of the Montagues. These diamonds are on the side. The Montagues have the 3 diamonds in a vertical position. I love this little place. The architecture in here is amazing. So this is where the old church foundations are up the side. We'll be going up there in a minute. It's important, it's very important, the dimensions for that, they're very particular. They tell their own story. Exactly like the St Christopher statue does. Very, very key information surrounding him. But it just supports all the claims of what we say, that these stonemasons are the Freemasons of today who still use this numerology. It's still appearing in all the decodes we do, it's still appearing in all the work and the research that we're all doing. And there's a reason for it, which of course boils down to the architecture, the great architect of the universe, which is why they worship. Freemasons, stonemasons worship the great architect, which really is to some god within all cultures. It's a universal name for the creator. Well, it's not even seen as God, the great architect isn't even seen as God actually. The great architect is seen as a creator. And that's why obviously I talk about the creator's code as it is. That's all based on the architecture, geometry, earth measure, gematria, so on and so forth. So this little space is very important. It's actually where they've still got all the original architecture of the pillars and arches. But what we've got down here is the Mason mark. Let's see if we can get a clear picture of it. It's a pentagram and a pentagon in the centre. So it's the 5-pointed star of the architect, that's Solomon's seal. That's exactly what these architects, these masons were using. They were using Solomon's seal, the 5-pointed star. So Solomon's seal, of course, is fire, 72 degrees. We've got air, 144 degrees. Earth, 216 degrees. Ether or spirit, 288 degrees. And then water, back around to 0 or 360 degrees, creates the full circle, the full cycle. Well, I was seeing that as a very important sign. That this is pretty much what Mona's coding is about. It's the tetragrammaton and the 5-pointed star of the pentagram. That's why we find it in so many codings. That's why the Pentagon building in America has the exact same coding. As we've gone through that over time with 9/11's decodes, it's exactly the same coding that Da Vinci's done, and this is why. It's all to do with the architecture and how life plays out, so the orbital resonance that creates the geometry down here on Earth, as above, so below, basically. So this is how I always say Nostradamus and people like that could actually predict the future as well. It's because they knew everything was cyclic. They knew everything, what goes around comes back around. And it was a shared science, a shared art form that people were using. Specifically the Chaldeans, they were highly trained astrologers, they were experts in it. Their religion was astrology. Sun, the moon, the stars, where they got all the answers. So anyway, these are the church foundations down here. It's hard to tell from this angle, but I'll get a shot from above in a minute. The foundations run from the bottom here. So that'll be the bottom of the church. And they run all the way up to the top end up there. And I don't know if you can just about see them, but the transepts, the two arms of the cross, are there. So this is very important, this one. These foundations in particular are very, very specific. So as I said with the St Christopher, the dimensions of 133.2 inches and 15.6 inches, that equals 148.8, gives us Christos in Greek isopsephy gematria. So the length of this church as well is 148 feet, and at the transepts it's 74 feet. So of course this all translates then into the numerology that we use in our gematria and every decode that we do. The 148 is Mona Lisa's 4081, or Giza being 481 feet. We have the Kaaba in Mecca. The sun aligns directly over the Kaaba on the 148th day of the year. Rosslyn Chapel is aligned with the winter solstice. It takes place at 8:41 AM for the winter solstice date. So it's all perfectly done. Very perfectly done. So this is very important, and the Masons knew it. The St Christopher having this exact same dimensions as this church foundation. Far from coincidental. And we'll share some of the information on the screen just to show you the correlations of exactly where this comes from. So for example, we have the 14.8 hours equals 888 minutes. So the 148 is Christos, the 888 is Jesus, of course, or the 3/8 spoke wheels of the Dharma chakra. Jesus is that representation of the Buddha. I'll take you around the edges of the church foundations that would have been here originally. So of course these churches are always in the cruciform, in the cruciform shape, because they fold up into the cube, they fold up into the tesseract. So the fact that this is 148 feet in length is a direct correlation to the Kaaba on the 148th day of the year. So these are where the transepts are, excuse me. Trying to get this information to flow and trip over my words, it's impossible sometimes. But it's a lot of information to take in, so I know that it's I know it can be mind-boggling sometimes, but hopefully the correlations we put up on the screen will help you understand the information I'm trying to provide. But I'm not here to try and prove anything these days. I've proven it already, so now I'm really backing up my research is what I am doing. So there's a lot of gravestones over this way. This is where all the Brooke family, Dutton family and everything else would have been laid to rest over the years, all the Knights of Malta, and I mean there's loads of them. There really is loads of them here. So as I said, it's been a very important place, very important location at one time. The monasteries, of course, you have the Mona link in there of monastery, and the monks. So that's where the transepts would be either side. It's called them the arms of the church, and this is where the church ends up here. The 148 feet ends up this side, all the way down to the bottom. But as you can see when you get into this side, you can actually see how cubic it actually just is. This is the centre of the cube, so the arms would fold in both sides, the legs would fold up, head tucks over, and you've got the cube, you've got the tesseract. So Salvatore Dali tried to show us this exact same thing with Corpus Hypercubus. He puts Jesus on a hypercube, and that's what he's trying to show. He's trying to show that these churches do fold up into that cube. This is the cube of creation, it's Solomon's seal, it's the magic cube of Solomon. That's exactly what it is. The pentagram's involved with all that type of witchcraft and seals and sigils, and it's one of the most important that they use. It's elemental magic, of course. It's what mages and druids and everything else would have used back in the day. So, and they are carrying on excavations here as well. I've noticed they've been working here for the past few months now, so I'll be curious to see what they find. I wonder if anyone's ever going to listen to me here. I don't know if they'll ever pay attention, but I think with the church now, with the church foundation, is the 148 feet and the 74. I mean the 74, of course, you'll know is Jesus in gematria. That's a simple one. That's one of the most well used numbers in all the decodes that we do. 74 feet equals 1,776 inches, which is of course America's foundation, well not foundation, independent state, sorry. That's what these numbers are used for America's independence, but their frequencies is what they are. It all comes down to frequencies. That's the orbital resonance that plays out down here, kind of shapes our entire life path, the geometry our life plays in. It's all cycles, revolutions, RPM. That's what it all comes down to. That's why if you can read the stars, you can read your life basically. You can read the future, you can read your life path. You can read your history, you can read your past. So we'll go up and have a little look from the top before I close the video off, because we haven't got much time here today. We've arrived a little bit late. There was a calligraphy class going on, but we've just about missed that. So Marty wasn't very happy. But the two main reasons that I come is I wanted to show you these church foundations, just explain that this area has been very important to the people that built it, to the architects that were here, to the masons that built it. So personally, I think at one time these places have been used, or was built, with the right purpose in mind. It's just that over the years that they fell into the wrong hands, and of course that's all used against us over the years then. It's one of the main features of Norton Priory. One of the things I've always loved when I was a kid. And one thing that Marley loves the most when she comes here now is this little structure. It's one of the giant bells, so of course harmonics, frequencies, sound waves, sound healing, etc. This would have been really, really important at the time. Not used for what they say, not just to ring out to the village, although you can hear it from a couple of miles away, of course. But right, give it a ring for us, Mars. And again. And again. So the sound circulating in here is awesome. Really is pretty cool. So obviously Marley loves that. I love that as well. I've been doing that since I was little. So it's nice to get to bring Marley in now as well. And she gets to experience it all like I did when I was younger. This is just one of the exhibition rooms, but got some pretty cool items in it. I did really want to bring you up just so I could show you the church foundations from this angle though. So you can actually see the cross a lot better from this angle then. So again, 148 feet in length, 74 feet across at the transepts. That's absolutely perfect geometry by them. Just some examples over here of some of the buildings that are around the Priory, some of the mansions that were built. Even the uneducated can read the book of the world. St. Augustine. So he's got a direct relationship with my numerology, St. Augustine. He died on the 28th of August, the 288 date. That's also the date that Liverpool was founded. And of course it's part of Mona Lisa's dimensions. The Mona Lisa weighs 288 ounces or 18 pounds. Or you've got the Taj Mahal, is 240 feet in height, which is 2,880 inches. It's one of those ancient numbers, one of the numerical systems that was used and now we use today in meters and inches and feet and everything else. So this is where people say they didn't use meters and feet and all this back in the day. It all translates, it's all come through. We're using the same system. For example, Silbury Hill is 39.3 feet, or 39.3 metres, sorry, Silbury Hill. And inside 1 metre we have 39.3 inches. All these numbers have all translated, they've all transferred through time, and we still use them today. So that's no longer applicable for anybody trying to pull that one. We know the numbers and we know what they've been used for. They're still in use today, without doubt. And so are the families that perform all the rituals and everything else that people try and deny. It's all still relevant, all still exists. They might be doing it behind closed doors, but they're still there. So we'll leave that here. I just wanted to give you a quick walk around while I was here today, because it's one of the important places. It means a lot to me personally. It's where my journey started. And funny enough, it was somewhere that I always felt that I'd find answers. I always felt I'd get answers from this. What I will do at the end of the video is just put a little decode up that I'd published on my Patreon page, just so you can have a read through it in your own time, and you can take the numbers and study them as you wish. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Marley, say thank you and say goodbye. Right, see you again soon. Peace.